4.5 word problems with two variables. You really need to go to Course Compass and print this before you start watching this video. I'm not going to have it printed out here like I did on 2.4. So this is going to be important to do. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and pause the video and get that done. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be looking at basically two different ways of setting up our equations. And we're talking about two variables, so we're talking about a system of equations. The first method is going to be where we have a number amount and a value. And we're going to use, to solve these, we're either going to use substitution or addition, which is also called elimination. So in our first word problem, I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to our black ink. Zacharias has a total of 59 coins, all of which are either dimes or nickels. The total value of the coins is $4.80. Find the number of each type. The first thing we want to do is look at the number amount. And so he has dimes and nickels that add up to 59. Our value of a dime is 10 cents, and so 10 times D, the value of a nickel is 5 times N, and then the amount of money was $4.80. And notice I'm not using decimals in any of this. So if you don't use the decimals here, you can't put the decimal here. So keep that in mind. So this is our system of equations. Didn't leave myself much space there. And so when I'm looking at this, I have to decide, do I want to use substitution or addition? And I'm going to choose substitution for this problem. Sometimes it really doesn't matter which one you choose, and sometimes one method is going to be easier than the other method. But for right now, I just want to go ahead and use the substitution. So that means I have to take this problem and rearrange it. So I'm going to have D equals 59 minus the N. I just moved it over. So now this becomes my sub in the other equation for the D. So I'll have 10 times, and leave space for your substitute, and then come in and put it, and then just start working the equation. 10 times 59 and 10 times the negative N. Then we want to combine the like terms. Then we want to move the 590 over. So we're going to minus the 590. It doesn't work very well. And so we're going to end up with a negative 5n equals a negative 110. Divide by that negative 5, and n is going to equal 22. Now they want us to find how many of both coins. So this is going to be important for you to be sure and find both answers. So the n equals 22. Well, I already rearranged this to say D equals. And so if I say D equals 59 minus N, and I use substitution again, and put the 22 in for the D, then we can see it's going to be 37. Then we always want to check these problems. So I know that 22 plus 37 equals the 59. I've already done that part of it. I need to see if it works here. So I've got 10 times the D plus 5 times the N equals 480. And so the D was 37 and the N was 22. This is 370 plus 110, and that adds up to 480 over here, and we had 480 over here that we just bring down, and so this does check, and so that means the 22 and the 37 are our correct answers. Now let's go ahead and look at number 2. Tanya has $2.25 in change in her purse. She has 4 times as many nickels as she does quarters. How many of each type does she have? Now this one's a little bit harder to understand because our first inclination is to translate this. When we've got that 4 times as many nickels, we want to say 4N equals the Q. And this isn't going to be right. Let's go ahead and look. Let me draw a little bit of some. So if I have 1 quarter and it says 4 times as many nickels as quarters. So if I have 1 quarter, that means I'm going to have 4 nickels. If I have 2 quarters, that means I'm going to have 4 nickels and then another 4 nickels. And so then if I want to write this in algebraic terms, I can't say 4 times N, because if I have one of these and I multiply it times 4, then that means I'm going to have 4 quarters. So we can't not translate it this way. What we have here is if I've got the quarters and then I've got the nickels, what do I multiply times this number to get this number? Well, if this number, let me go ahead and just put this as a 1. So I've got 1 quarter and I've got 4 nickels. Well, to go from 1 to 4, I multiply over here times the 4. So if I had 2 quarters, then it's 4 times 2 gives me the 8. So what we're looking at here for our number amount is 4 times Q equals the N. So you want to keep this in mind when you're working your homework. We're not translating this the way that we think that it reads. Okay, so that's the number amount. Now I need the value. Well, still we're just taking the nickels and the quarters and we're adding them together to get that to 25. But we have to put the value for the nickel and the value for the quarters. And so then here we have our 2 equations. Now this one is set up perfectly for substitution. And so I want to take this and substitute it here for my N. And then let's see, 45 will go into 225, I think 5 times. Let's double check that. 45 times 5. Yes. Okay. So I've got 5 quarters. Then I need to find out how many nickels I have. And so we'll use that. 4Q equals how many nickels? So 4 times Q equals the N. Well, the Q is 5. So we'll go ahead and put this here. 20 equals the N. Then we want to check it. And when you're checking this, we're not going to use this equation because we just used this one to find this number. So if you use it again, it's going to say you're right. You've got to check it in the other equation. So keep in mind what we learned in that 4.2 and 4.3 sections about doing the checking. So I want to check in 5N. And then we'll come through and say 5 times 20. And the quarters was 5. That's 100. That's 125. Add them together. 225 on the left, 225 on the right. And this checks out. Okay? All right. So what I would like to do now is I'd like for you to take and set up number 3. So let's do a practice. All right, so you've been doing this long enough. You know, pause the video, do your work, and then restart the video. And when you restart it, all the work will be here for you to look at. So here I went ahead and wrote your equations for you in case you were kind of stuck and didn't know how to get started. And then we're going to use substitution. So you need to rearrange this equation so that it says either B equals or N equals. Okay, I want you to, I'm going to pause this again. I want you to pause again, and then when you bring it back up, it's going to have your answers. Okay, so take a look at this. I rearranged it. This became my substitute for the B, so it goes right there. Work it out. You should know by now how to work equations without having to show every step. If you don't, then you need to show every step. Keep practicing. I get N equals 40. Substitute that 40 here for N. Come up with 80. Then I check it. Let's go ahead and look at number 4. We're not going to do number 4. We're just going to talk about number 4. And I want to show you how I want a very specific way of setting up number 4, number 5, number 6. These are the chemical problems. And they are also a number amount and a value, but they're going to be very specific. And so let's think about if you took a chemistry class and you had 2 beakers of some kind of chemical, and we wanted to make a new chemical or a new concentration. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit from this one and put it in there, and a little bit from this one and put it in there. And so what we're going to call this is we're going to call this what we are pouring, the P. And from this one we're going to dump very carefully. So we're going to pour a little bit, we're going to dump a little bit into our new beaker. And so this is what we're going to use. So the number amount, and then we're going to have the value. The number amount is going to be P plus D equals the N. What we poured plus what we dumped to get what is new. The value These, if you notice in the questions, are percents. So the percent of P plus the percent of what we dumped is going to give us the percent of the new. So it's still a problem that involves the number amount and the value, but this is a very particular way of setting it up. So let's go ahead and let's look at how we would set up number 4, and then we're going to do number 5. So for number 4, when we're reading it, it says he needs 8 liters of a 35% solution. This is the new. Then it tells us that Dimitri had a supply of a 32% solution and a 40% solution. So this is what we're going to pour, and this is what we're going to dump. Okay, so this is the information that we need from the word problem. The other thing we need is these equations. So I'm going to pour plus dump to get 8. That's what I need. The new amount is 8 liters. What I'm pouring is the 32%. And you can also drop the percent. You don't have to worry about putting decimals here or the percents. And then the 40% of what we dumped. And then the new is the 8 liters. That's the N. But the percent is here, that 35. So 35 times the 8. Okay, so this would be how we would get started with number 4. Okay, so I want to keep in mind these problems here. And so I'm going to go ahead. We're going to set up number 5, and then we're going to solve it. Okay, so what we've got, a chemist needs 150 milliliters of a 50% solution. That's the new stuff. He has 17% and 62% solutions available. Find how many milliliters of each that should be mixed to get the desired solution. So we're going to pour and dump until we have 150 milliliters. We're going to use the 17% that we pour and the 62% of what we're dumping to get a new concentration that is 50%, and that N is 150. So again, here are our equations, and I'm going to use substitution because I can take this and very easily move that D over, and then this becomes my sub in the other equation for the P. Okay, so this is how we're going to set it up. There's my substitute. Then we're going to take and do the distributing, the combining, etc. to finish out this equation. So the first thing we need to do is probably get a calculator so we can multiply this, and then we'll work on solving it. Okay, so what we're dumping is going to be 110 milliliters of, and we got to figure out which solution it is. Okay, so look at the D, go back up here to where the D is. The D is connected to the 62, so that's of the 62%. Then we need to find out how much of the 17%. Well, this is where we're going to come in with this P equals. P equals 150 minus the D. Well, the D is 110. So we need 40 milliliters of the, and the P is connected to the 17%. Okay, so get all that written down, look it over, and then I'm going to ask you to do number 6 on your own. Now what I want to do is, like I did with the last problem that you had to practice, is I'm going to ask you to pause the video, set up the problem, and then start the video again so you can see if you've gotten it set up correctly before you go to do all the math. Okay, so this chemist needs 100 milliliters, so this is our number amount. She has 33% to pour, an 83% solution to dump, and she needs a 68% solution of the new amount. So now we're going to rewrite this as P equals 100 minus D. This becomes your substitute for the P in the other equation. Okay, so go ahead and you're going to pause the video again and try and work it out for yourself. And then after you've worked it out, come back and check to see if you got it correct. Okay, I know this is a little hard to understand, but if you'll use the setup that I gave you at the beginning, that should make it easier. If you just struggle with your homework, you really need to send me an email and ask a question. But hopefully if you watch the video once and then if you watch it again, hopefully you'll be able to do these chemical problems. They're really not that difficult. They're scary because they're talking about chemistry and, you know, milliliters and all these percents. But again, if you'll set it up with that P plus D equals N, and then the percent of P plus the percent of D equals the percent of N. If you will use this consistently, you'll do very well with these chemical problems. Okay, let's go to the next page and look at number 7. On the back page, all of these problems are translating. And so what we're going to do is we're basically translating sentences. So when we read the first one, a vendor sells hot dogs and bags of potato chips. A customer buys 5 hot dogs and 3 bags of potato chips for $10.50. That is your first equation. Another customer buys 4 hot dogs and 2 bags of potato chips for $8. That is your second equation. Substitution doesn't work well here. We want to use addition/elimination. So we've got 5H for hot dogs plus 3B for bags of chips equals 1050. And this time I'm going to work with the decimal. Again, if you drop it, you just want to keep in mind that if they ask for the cost, you're giving it in dollars and cents. Another customer buys 4 hot dogs and 2 bags of chips for $8. So this becomes our system. Again, substitution doesn't work well here. We want to do addition. Well, with that addition elimination, I need for the addition elimination, we need opposite signs, so something will cancel that elimination process, and they've got to have opposite signs and the same coefficient for this to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and do, we'll just do the H's. Doesn't matter if I do the H's or the B's, we'll still get the same number. I'm going to multiply here at the top times -4, because I need this to become -20. And I'm going to multiply here times 5 so that this becomes +20. Remember to multiply all the way across. So we'll have -20H minus 12B minus $42. I think that's right. 4 times 10 is 40. That's 2. Okay. 5 times 4 is 20H. 5 times 2 is 10B. And 5 times 8 will give me 40. Now I have my new equations. And I can take now, draw that line underneath, add them straight down, and these eliminate. We've got a -2B equals a -$2. Divide by the -2, and the bags of chips are worth $1. Now we want to go back. Let's go back to an original. Now remember, with the adding and the eliminating, we could be consistent on which one. So we're going to use the top equation to find the second number, and we can use the bottom equation to check, and we can be consistent with the adding and eliminating. So let's go ahead and we're going to go back to the originals also. So we have 5H plus 3 times B equals 1050. Well, now we know that the B is 1. And so we've got, and we can put it as $1 or 1. So we've got 5H plus $3 equals 1050. Move the $3 over, so now it's 750. Divide by the 5, and the hot dogs are $1.50 each. You want to check it? You're going to plug it into this bottom equation. So to check, I have, let's put check, 4 times the H plus 2 times the B. We're saying the H is 150 and the B is 1. So that's $6 plus $2 and that does equal $8 on both sides, and so then we know that it checks. Okay. All right. I think you know what's coming next. I want you to practice this one, so I want you to do number 8. And so I'm going to do what I did a while ago. I want you to set it up, pause the video, set it up, then start the video again and just look at how it is set up. Then pause it again to finish out the work. Okay? So pause video and set up the equations for number 8. And then restart the video so you can make sure that you're on the right track before you do the math. Okay, if you've got this set up okay, then go ahead and pause it again. And then when you come back, I'm going to manipulate both of these and work this out. Oh, and I forgot something. Do you notice what it is? -3 times this should be a negative. Okay. Alright, so we've got $1.25 for the bags of chips. I'm going to go back to 4H plus 2 times B equals the 850. And the hot dogs are $1.50 again. Okay. Let us go ahead and look at number 9. And again, we're looking at translating. Two numbers total -14 and their difference is 4. Find the two numbers. When you are translating these types of problems, it's really helpful to say, my first number is going to be X and my second is going to be Y. That way we can make sure we're picking up the right number. Two numbers total. So that means we're adding X plus Y to get -14. and their difference, x minus y, equals 4. Well, this is already set up perfectly for addition because those two will eliminate, and now I have 2x equals negative 10 and x equals negative 5. Then we're going to use the top equation. Negative 5 plus y equals negative 14. Y equals negative 9 because I added plus 5 plus 5. Then I want to check it. So use the bottom equation. X minus y equals 4. X is negative 5. Y is negative 9. That means that becomes a positive 9. That gives me 4 on the left, 4 on the right. These two are equal, so I know these two numbers are correct. Okay? I want you to do number 10. So we're going to do number 10. Again, set it up, and then come and check it out, and then pause it again. All right, one number, that's x, is equals 4 more than a second number, and my second number is y. The second sentence, 2 times the first number, well, the first number is x, is the equals 10 more than 4 times the second number, and the second number is y, so 4 times y. So here are your two equations. Okay, so I want you to pause it. Hopefully you got this part set up right. Pause it and do the work. Alright, this one was set up perfectly for substitution, so this became my substitute in the other equation for x, and so here it is. Distribute, move the 2y, move the 10, divide by 2, y equals negative 1. I plug that into the equation that says x equals, because that gives me my x answer quickly. And then I check it in the other equation, replacing the x and the y, and these two numbers match, so we're good. With number 11 and 12, we're also, it is a type of translation. We're dealing with angles, and it tells you don't have to know what supplementary angles are or complementary because the information gives it to you. You just have to be sure and set it up correctly. So let's go ahead and look at number 11. We have two angles are supplementary if their sum equals 180 degrees. Find the measures of each angle if the first angle is 40 degrees larger than the second angle. Okay, so we've got two angles. We've got angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. That's the basic equation, but we don't want to use angle 1 and angle 2. We want to use x and y. So we're going to say angle 1 equals x and angle 2 equals y. So this gives us x plus y equals 180. That's the first translation. Then it says find the measure if the first angle is 40 degrees larger than the second angle. So if the first angle is 40 degrees larger, well, the first angle is x. So the first angle is, that's my equal sign, 40 degrees larger than, so 40 more added to the second angle. The first angle is 40 more than the second angle. And again, set up perfectly for substitution. We'll use that as our substitute there. So we're going to have 40 plus y, that's my x, plus y equals 180. So 40 plus 2y, 2y equals 140, divide by 2, and my second angle is 70. Now here is where you've got to be careful, because we know that our x and y's add up to 180, but do not find the second angle. So do not find second angle by doing 180 minus 70 equals. If you've made a mistake in this work, this will not show it to you. And so we want to go back and use that. X equals 40 plus y, and y is 70. So x equals 110. And then these two angles should add up to equal 180, and they do. So then you know that you've gotten the right answer. But if you make a mistake here and you do this method to find x, when you check it, it'll say you're right, but you won't be. So don't do it this way. Plug it in. Do it the long way. Okay? All right, for number 12, they're complementary if their angle equals 90. So we're looking at angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 90 instead of 180. So again, I want you to do number 12. Go ahead and do the setup, and then come back and look at the work we have here. So I'll get you started. I want you actually to do it first. Write it down, then check what you've got going on here, and then come back again later. Okay. So we're going to call angle 1 x and angle 2 y, and when we add them together we get 90. And then the last sentence says, find the measure of each angle if the first angle, which is x, is 15 degrees more than twice the second angle. All right, so I missed something. So you always want to double check that. 2y, twice the second angle. So very similar to what we did before. So then to solve it, use this as your substitute for x. So go ahead and pause the video and do the work, and then come back and look at the video. Now you can check your work. Number 13 and 14 are talking about a business, and we're talking about cost equals revenue. This is what you have to figure out if you have a business, to see what you have to sell just to break even. So even before you can make a profit, this is what we've got to know. So we've got this written as C of X and R of X, and we're just going to set them equal to each other. So that means 7,000x plus 45,000 equals 12,000x. And then we just solve this. So 45,000 equals 5,000x. Divide by the 5,000, and x is going to equal 9. And we're only going to be getting one answer for these. Okay? So I want you to do 14. For practice. So go ahead and start that, and then come back and check it after you've worked it. Okay, now these are not hard, and you're only finding one answer. This is the easiest thing on this worksheet, or on your test for that matter, and so you need to get it right. I want to know that you watched this video, because sometimes I wonder if my students are actually watching them. So email me and tell me that you watched the 4.5 video. This will be good for, this will be your bonus 5 points on your test. Okay, so hopefully you'll do very well on this. And again, if you have questions, then call me, or it's easier to email me. Good luck.